Studio, Sri Lanka.
Good evening and welcome to the National News broadcast brought to you live from the National News Studios here at the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. I am Dishan Veerakone and joining me tonight is Dulanjali Anandan. First up, let's take a look at your headlines.
Government expenditure further curtailed. Wasantha Mudalige released from the PTA case. Former President Maithripala Sirisena apologizes. The United States to extend further assistance for Sri Lanka to obtain the IMF fund facility. Attention to increase the purchasing rate of a litre of liquid milk by 20 rupees. A Bangladeshi boy who was playing hide and seek found from Malaysia.
Now moving on into those and other stories in detail. Now in a note to the Cabinet, President Ranil Wickremesinghe in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilisation and National Policy said that the government expenditure should be further curtailed.
He made this note as the government revenue for January 2023 is far below the monthly expenditure of the same month. As a result, the President noted that the General Treasury finds it challenging to meet all expenditures at this moment except for payments for salaries, pensions, welfare, pharmaceuticals and debt servicing. Therefore, President Wickremesinghe pointed out that the government expenditure will have to be curtailed further or postponed until planned revenue to be raised on the recent tax revisions is realized. He noted that the General Treasury will formulate a priority criterion for this purpose. Until then, the release of imprest will be curtailed. Furthermore, the President pointed out that the public officers should refrain from obtaining goods, services on credit basis, and any officer who violates this will be held personally responsible for such expenditure.
In the meantime, remarks were shared over the taxes imposed to the new tax policy of the government during the media briefing held today to announce the Cabinet decisions. Now, Cabinet spokesman Minister Bandula Gunawardena briefed regarding the new policy. Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that the IMF has insisted the government to commit in taking necessary measures in the face of increasing government expenditure and subpar government revenue. He said that the tax policy has burdened the employees in both state and private sectors. He added that the parliamentarians are also included under the tax policy. He pointed out that the President and the Finance Ministry are engaging in discussions over the measures which can be taken to provide relief for the public. Remarks were also shared over the existing vacancies and surplus employees in the state sector. The minister said that the prevailing vacancies have to be fulfilled through the existing state service. He said that over 26,000 teachers will be recruited and those recruitments will be fulfilled through the existing employee base. He also said that the state institutions, including media outlets, are urging the surplus employees for self-retirement.
Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal furnished by the President to amend the Social Security Contribution Levy Act No. 25 of 2022 and to direct the legal draftsman to prepare a draft bill for the purpose. A Social Security levy of 2.5% has been imposed under the Social Security Contribution Levy Act on the individuals who can be taxable for exceeding a yearly income of 120 million rupees.
The proposal presented by Minister Nima Siripal de Silva to accept the draft amendments to the Convention relating to offences and certain other acts committed in passenger aircrafts, also known as the Montreal Protocol 2014, and to take the necessary steps to enact the necessary legislation for the implementation of the provisions was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers.
The Cabinet of Ministers granted approval to the proposal submitted by Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa to empower a new act for management and disposal of case goods depending on the recommendations of the said committee and to instruct the legal draftsman to draft a bill in this regard.
Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal presented by Minister Kanchana Wijayasekara to install an electricity storage system to ensure uninterrupted power supply in the Hambantota district during emergency power outages and peak power demand. The merchandise exports in the country for the year 2022 has increased by 4.6% to $13 billion compared to the corresponding period of 2021. Earnings from the merchandise exports have decreased by 9.7% to $1,044 million in December 2022 as per the data released by Sri Lanka Customs. The decline is due to the decrease in export earnings from apparel and textiles, tea, rubber-based products and coconut-based products, food and beverages, spices and essential oils and fisheries products. The Export Development Board in its statement has indicated that the decline has been recorded due to the ongoing recession in major markets with the rising cost of production and energy. Imports have declined sharply due to inflation and the demand for goods and services has reduced. The estimated value of service exports for the year 2022 was $1,876.3 million, decreasing by 5.9% over the corresponding period of 2021.
Now, International Monetary Fund says that the global economy will weaken this year as rising interest rates and Russia's war in Ukraine continue to weigh on activity. According to the global lending agency, global growth expects to slow from 3.4% in 2022 to 2.9% in 2023. The upgrade in the outlook reflects China's sudden reopening, which the IMF said paves the way for a rapid rebound in activity. It also cited unexpected resilience in numerous economies in the second half of 2022, as well as an improvement in global financial conditions as inflation starts to ease and the US dollar comes down from its highs. Official data published today showed that Europe's economy managed to eke out growth in the fourth quarter of 2022. GDP growth across the countries using the euro currency was 0.1% compared with the third quarter of the year, easing fears of a recession. IMF's Director of Research, Pierre Olivier, in a blog post said that the outlook is less gloomy than in the October forecast of 2.7%, which could represent a turning point with growth bottoming out and inflation declining. The IMF emphasized that growth this year will remain weak by historical standards as the annual average between 2000 and 2019 was 3.8%. IMF has indicated that central banks will need to continue their aggressive campaign to reduce decades-high inflation, which will result in a slowdown of economic activity. It predicted that 9 out of 10 advanced economies will likely decelerate. In the United States, growth is expected to slow from 2% in 2022 to 1.4% in 2023. Europe is forecasting to see growth among 20 countries that use the euro drop from 3.5% to 0.7%. The United Kingdom is expected to experience a contraction of 0.6%. The IMF, however, observes improvements to the global outlook, with a major reason being China. The IMF forecasts growth in China will rebound to 5.2% this year, notably higher than its previous estimate. The growth of the world's second largest economy was declined during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, the International Monetary Fund's Executive Board has approved a support program for Bangladesh worth $4.7 billion at current exchange rates, making the South Asian country the first to access its new resilience and sustainable facility. The funding announced on Monday includes $3.3 billion under the IMF's Extended Credit Facility and Extended Fund Facility programs and $1.4 billion under the new RSF, which aims to help vulnerable middle-income countries and island states. The board approval of a staff agreement reached last November allows the immediate disbursement of about $476 million to Bangladesh, the IMF said. The IMF said the 42-month borrowing package will help preserve macroeconomic stability, protect the vulnerable and foster inclusive and green growth. The fund said it includes reforms focused on creating fiscal space to enable greater social and developmental spending, strengthening Bangladesh's financial sector, boosting fiscal and governance reforms and building climate resilience. The IMF announced the new RSF facility in October last year to provide policy support and affordable longer-term financing for low-income and vulnerable middle-income countries, in addition to the existing lending toolkits that these countries had access to. RSF facilities come with a 20-year maturity and a 10.5-year grace period during which no principal is repaid. The funding from the RSF will help support the country's climate change adaptation and mitigation efforts, according to the IMF.
Now, a follow-up discussion on major economic reforms of World Bank's preliminary actions was held at the Presidential Secretariat this afternoon. The discussion was held with the participation of Senior Advisor to the President on National Security and Chief of Presidential Staff, Sagala Ratnayaka. The World Bank Assistance Programme was discussed at length during the meeting. The improvement on financial supervision and credit management, improving tax administration policy, reducing systematic risk in the sovereign financial sector, strengthening the delivery system and targeting of social security agencies, as well as reducing policy uncertainty and increasing the competitiveness of the economy were some items which were discussed during the meeting. Discussions also focused on the preliminary measures to be taken for their implementation. Senior advisor to the President, Sagla Ratnayake, emphasized the need to implement these preliminary measures immediately. Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe and Secretary to the Ministry of Finance, Mahinda Siriwardena, were present at this occasion.
Now, the Colombo Chief Magistrate ordered today to release convener of the Inter-University Students' Federation, Wasantha Mudalige, who is currently in remand custody under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Announcing his decision, Chief Magistrate Prasanna Alves said that sufficient evidence has not been presented to further detain IUSF convener Wasantha Mudalige in remand custody under the Prevention of the Terrorism Act. In his decision, the Chief Magistrate mentioned that the suspect, according to the evidence submitted by the Terrorism Investigation Division, has engaged in violent activities while taking part in protests held in several areas. The magistrate further said that the evidence submitted by the TID has also indicated that the suspect has been involved in large financial transactions. The complainant has submitted the statements recorded from the motivation Appachi and Gamunu Wijeratna with the courts as primary evidence against the suspect. However, the magistrate, in his order, after careful consideration, has indicated that the statements made by the witnesses are baseless, hence the suspect has not committed any of the offences specified in the PTA as per the relevant statements. The Chief Magistrate also pointed out that the submitted evidence has failed to prove that the suspect had committed any offence under the 2nd and 3rd sections of the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Accordingly, the Chief Magistrate in his verdict pointed out that he has no legal capacity to further remand the suspect based on the evidence, and he will be discharged from all charges under the PTA. In the meantime, social media activist Sepal Amarasinghe has been further remanded until the 14th of next month as per an order issued by the Colombo Magistrates Court. He has been charged for making a defamatory statement against the sacred tooth relic. The attorney representing the suspect said that the suspect is willing to apologize publicly over the relevant statement.
Former President Maithripala Sirisena says he apologizes to the victims over the Easter Sunday attack.
He made these remarks during a media briefing held at the Sri Lanka Freedom Party headquarters today. Former President Maithripala Sirisena said that the Catholic community, as per his knowledge, bears no hatred towards him. He said that he has been forced to compensate for an offence committed by other parties. He apologized from the victims of the Easter Sunday attacks for such an incident to occur during his tenure. The former president also expressed his interest to contest at the next presidential election. The former president expressed his capability to contest at the elections and requested for the support of the party in this regard. He said that he has the backing of the people.
දන්නේ නැතුව මෙවැනි ත්‍රස්ත ප්‍රහාරයක් එල්ල වෙලා මගේ පාලන කාලය තුල මෙවැනි ප්‍රහාරයක් එල්ල වෙලා මේ ජීවිත විනාශ වීම පිළිබඳව
ඉදිරි ජනාධිපතිවරණයකදී අපේක්ෂකයෙකු ලෙස තමන් ඊට ඉදිරිපත් වන බවද මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන මහතා මෙහිදී කියා සිටියා.
ඔය එක්කෙනා ඉතින් නඩු පවරයි තව නඩු 10යි ඉතින් ඕවා මොම තමයි මම පස්සට යන්නේ මම වැටෙන මිනිහෙක් නෙවෙයි මට තරඟ කරන්න පුළුවන් ඒක නිසා මට පක්ෂයේ සහයෝගය තියෙනවා මට ජනතාවගේ සහයෝගය තියෙනවා මම තරඟ කරනවා. ඇයි ඒකේ වැරද්ද
වශයෙන් ඔහු අසාර්ථක කෙනෙක්.
National Director for Social Communication, Reverend Father Jude Krishantha, said that the public is not naive to cast their vote for the former president. He said that the former president is unsuccessful in terms of politics.
The US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chung, says the confidence of other countries over the measures undertaken by the government continues to assure at present. She made these remarks during a meeting held with State Minister Shehan Semasinghe at the Finance Ministry today. The US ambassador said that the measures over the IMF relief assistance will be accelerated with the cooperation of all countries. She emphasized that amidst the financial assurances from international creditors, Sri Lanka will soon achieve a stable economy and the United States government will continue to assist Sri Lanka in achieving this objective. The ambassador praised the unity shown by the country in working together at this critical juncture. Lengthy discussions were held on the measures taken to lay the required backdrop to achieve financial stability in the country as well as short and long-term impacts. State Minister Shehan Semasinghe pointed out that all measures have been prepared to gain a strong economic stability and the IMF assistance will lay the foundation for this program.
Now, the Milko company says the purchasing rate of a litre of liquid milk for domestic milk farmers is expected to be increased by another 20 rupees. Now, the Milko company chairman said that this initiative is currently in the experimental stage in certain districts in the country and pending approval from the ministry. Out of the total milk powder requirement of the country, only 8% is supplied domestically. Accordingly, 100,000 metric tons of milk powder are being imported into the country annually at the expense of $400 million. The traders and consumers have pointed out that the local products are hardly available in the local market at present. The liquid milk production in the country has quadrupled compared to 15 years ago. The current production is currently about 600 million litres. The government has taken steps to purchase a litre of high-quality liquid milk at a rate of 120 rupees locally. Milko company as well as other private companies are in the process of collecting milk from local producers. Palwat, the milk company chairman Aryashila Wikramnayaka, said that the company is now preparing to export butter and milk powder to overseas. He pointed out that import of milk powder and other non-essential goods has led to the prevailing dollar shortage in the country. Milko chairman Renuka Pereira said that even though Milko company has a capacity to store 600,000 litres of milk in its factories on a daily basis, they only receive less than 300,000 litres of liquid milk since the recent past. He said that the majority of the milk is used for liquid milk production, while the small plant in Ambewala factory is used for milk powder production. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the insemination process has declined drastically, which has impacted on the production. Accordingly, chairman of the company said that the Milko is expecting to provide cattle for farmers to revitalize the production process. He said the priority will be given to fulfill the liquid milk requirement in the local market than the milk powder. Also, Milko chairman said that plans have been made to increase the capacity of the factories along with the new factory currently under construction in Badalgamma, Pannala.
Public rallies are being organized at present targeting the upcoming local government polls. Accordingly, several public rallies were held yesterday as well. A public rally organised by Samak Janabala Vege was held in Matugama area with the participation of party leader Sajith Premadasa. Parliamentarian Sajith Premadasa said that one has to be steady and stable when negotiating with the IMF. The National People's Power also organised a public rally in Ambalantota area. Party leader Andrukumara Disanayaka was present at this occasion. Parliamentarian Andrukumara Disanayaka said that they have compiled an economic program covering all sectors. He added that the relevant program seeks to expand into rural segments instead of an economy based on Colombo.
Taking a look at today's weather update, the low pressure zone over the southeast Bay of Bengal has developed into a depression. Now, the Met Department has indicated that the condition will reach the eastern coast of the country by tomorrow. Due to this condition, a cloudy sky is expected to prevail over most parts of the island and showers or thunder showers will occur at times. Heavy showers about 150 millimeters are likely to occur in some places in the northern, north central, northwestern and eastern provinces. Also, heavy showers above 100 millimeters are likely to occur elsewhere. Strong winds about 50 to 60 kilometers per hour can be expected at times over the northern, north central, eastern, northwestern and central provinces. Winds will be northeasterly and wind speed may increase up to 55 to 60 kilometers per hour at times off the coast extending from Potuvil to Mana via Batiklo, Trincomalee and Kankasanture. The sea areas will be rough with swell waves about 2.5 to 3 meters in height off the relevant coast. The Met Department has requested the fishing and naval community not to venture into the sea areas after 6 p.m. today.
High Commissioner of New Zealand in Sri Lanka, Michael Appleton, engaged in an observational tour at the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation today. He visited the corporation parallel to the upcoming New Zealand National Day. During his visit, New Zealand High Commissioner Appleton met with Corporation Chairman W.B. Ganegala. Discussions were held on strengthening the media cooperation and bilateral relations.
Now let's take a look at a few local news items in brief. A special discussion of the promotion of tourism industry related to the religious sites in the country was held in Colombo today. A group of Indian businessmen were present at the discussion held with Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena. Accordingly, they have shown interest to invest and develop the facilities extended for tourists and pilgrims who visit the sites related to Ramayana, including Ravana Elia, Nuar Elia and Sita Elia. Minister Douglas Devananda recently engaged in an observational tour to look into the fisheries activities and lagoon development in the Negombo area. The Makandura Agrarian Research Institute in Kuliapitiya has introduced 44 species of hybrid Anthurium and 2 varieties of pineapple.
The institute said that apart from the 44 Anthurium species, another 2 Anthurium species have been named as Lanka Beauty and Lanka Kumari. Minister Mahinda Maravira engaged in an observational tour at the institute yesterday. The research to introduce new species for those who are involved in Anthurium horticulture has become successful at present. The specialties of the new Anthurium species is its luminous colors and the extent of life. Accordingly, the research officer said that the relevant flowers will not wither or change color for a period of 1 week. The Ministry of Agriculture said that steps will be taken to introduce the new species to the public. Meanwhile, the minister also observed the 2 new varieties of pineapple. These 2 varieties can be introduced for the international market as the fruits can be cultivated using organic fertilizer. Bangladeshi boy ends up in Malaysia after playing hide and seek in a shipping container.
15-year-old Fahim, identified only by his first name, was discovered in a shipping container in the West Port, Malaysia, after the ship he was on journeyed 6 days from Chittagong, Bangladesh, according to Malaysian national news agency Bernama. The boy was just believed to have entered the container, fell asleep and found himself here, Home Minister Datuk Ismail said, according to the news agency. He was the only one found in the container. A police report was lodged as he was having a fever. The Times of India reported that Fahim, who was playing hide and seek, hid in the container and got locked inside. A viral video showed the child being discovered in the container, disoriented and confused after taking days without food or water. The video showed authorities taking him away on a stretcher. Ismail added that Fahim received a medical exam and that the authorities are in the process of repatriating him through the legal channel. Officials initially feared it may have been a case of human trafficking, according to multiple reports. The relevant authorities have investigated the case and their investigations have found no elements of human trafficking.
Germany has pledged tens of millions of dollars to help Brazil defend the Amazon rainforest, a critical global ecosystem that experienced years of devastation under former far-right Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. During a news conference in Brasilia on Monday, German Development Minister announced that Berlin would make $38 million available for the Amazon Fund, an international mechanism largely funded by Norway that aims to prevent deforestation. In 2019, Bolsonaro, who promoted greater economic development in the Amazon, has loosened environmental safeguards, dissolved the steering committee that selects sustainable projects to finance, prompting Germany and Norway to freeze their donations. Germany also pledged to provide $87 million in low-interest loans for farmers to restore degraded areas and $34 million for Brazilian states in the Amazon region to protect the rainforest.
Flooding and landslides caused by the passage of tropical storm Chineso across Madagascar caused 30 deaths, left 20 people missing and affected tens of thousands across the Indian Ocean island nation, according to a provincial assessment made on Monday. The storm made landfall in the northeast of the island last Thursday and impacted close to 89,000 people, Madagascar's National Office for Risk and Disaster Management said. Madagascar's meteorological agency said the storm, which has now passed across the country into the Mozambique Channel, saw winds gusting up to 170 km per hour and unleashed torrential rains. Colonel Fali Arishiana of the Risk and Disaster Office said there had been house collapses and landslides in which people have become trapped.
Now, US President Joe Biden has ruled out sending F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine despite renewed calls from Ukrainian officials for urgent air support. Asked by a reporter if the United States would be providing the planes, Mr. Biden simply replied no. His comment comes a day after Germany's leader also ruled out sending jets. Ukraine has long been pushing its allies to send advanced warplanes to help Kyiv take control of its airspace in its ongoing war with Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and the country's top military officials say there should be no taboos on such military aid, but the United States and its partners fear this would lead to further escalation with the nuclear-armed Russia. After 2 years of cancellations due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Rio de Janeiro's epic street carnival is back. Thousands took to the streets for the pre-carnival party over the weekend ahead of next month's official carnival celebrations. It has been quite the opposite of social distancing for COVID restrictions that the street carnival parties, also known as bolocos, are back after being scrapped for 2 consecutive years in the Brazilian city. This pre-carnival party, the Chame Dente Boloco, is one of the over 400 ones that have been allowed to parade this year in Rio de Janeiro. The bolocos, also considered the true heart of Rio's carnival. They are free and take place every weekend all over the city. Though the pandemic is not yet over, these parties have marked a turning point for Rio de Janeiro, and this is just a warm-up. Rio's official carnival holiday runs from February 17th to 25th this year. So far, it seems that the city is ready to host what has been dubbed the biggest party on earth.
And taking a look at your sports stories for tonight. The tournament playing 11 of the inaugural ICC Under-19 Women's World Cup 2023 was announced. Now, India managed to win the inaugural championship.
The tournament 11 announced by the International Cricket Council is comprised of outstanding players of the tournament. Accordingly, the 11 is comprised of 3 Indians, 3 English players and a player from New Zealand, Bangladesh, South Africa, Australia and Pakistan. A Sri Lankan player is also among the 11. Sri Lanka's all-rounder Devmi Vihanga has been named for the team. Sri Lanka Army women's team managed to win the Inter-Club Women's Rugby Tournament match played against CRNFC. The match was played at CRNFC ground. Sri Lanka Army won the match by 64 points to 0. Meanwhile, reports have indicated that former Sri Lanka head coach Chandika Hatharusingha is expected to be named as the head coach for the One-Day International and Test teams of Bangladesh. The former head coach is currently as assistant coach of the Australians' New South Wales team. However, Bangladesh Cricket Institute yet is to issue the official communique in this regard.
Well, that's a wrap of tonight's Primetime News Bulletin here at the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. And until we meet again next time, do take care and good night.